Welcome to Modern Life is Goodish. My name is Dave Gorman. And you know, when you were a kid and you used to imagine what life would be like in the future, I think most of us used to think there would be power pills. Little tiny pills that would be like a whole meal. You'd pop a pill in your mouth and instantly feel like you're eating a roast dinner with gravy and spuds the works. Of course, what's happened is we've arrived in that future and we've got cuppa soup. But there are some things that I think work like power pills. There are what I like to call power pill sentences. Sentences you overhear, they're just a few short words, and they leave you feeling like you've watched an EastEnders omnibus. There's a backstory and it's all there. I'll give you an example. When Mrs. Gorman was about 7 months pregnant, we went for a 3D scan. It's very exciting. You get to see a sort of photorealistic picture of the face of your future baby. It is amazing. So we're in the waiting room of this clinic when a woman comes in having just had her scan, and she wasn't with her partner, she was with her best friend. And we heard her say, "Did you see his nose? I told you it was Darren's." See what I mean? See what I mean? That is a power pill sentence, isn't it? You see what I mean? A lot of information in a few tiny words. It's exciting, isn't it? I heard one the other day. I'm not going to pretend it's as good as that, but it is still worth sharing. I was going to the shops. I passed this man. He was drunk. He was very dishevelled. He was holding this horrible, greasy, fried chicken aloft in his hand. Most of it was dribbling down his sleeve or was already decorating his chest. He had his foot in an automatic door that kept closing and then opening and then closing and then opening, and he was shouting into the darkness, "How am I supposed to know I'm not allowed to eat fried chicken in a library? You haven't even put up a bleeding poster." And again, it's all there, isn't it? You can see the last 2 hours of his life refracted in that one sentence. And what we're chuckling at is a man who, perhaps in drink, has failed to recognise that being drunk and dripping chicken juice on library books isn't the sort of thing the world should be making posters about. It's the sort of thing you're meant to know not to do anyway. Except, I'm not sure that's really borne out by our experience of the world. I see lots of signs telling us not to do things that none of us were planning to do. I mean, if you went for a meal, say, in a nice restaurant, and this happened to me. I was in Liverpool. I went to a nice restaurant for a meal with a couple of friends. Now, the restaurant was on the first floor, and when we arrived, we went up the stairs. But at the end of the meal, a waiter escorted us to the lift and pressed the button. And so we got in it. Now, if this was you, would any of you think, now we're in this lift, let's have a bounce? Would you ever post-dinner bounce? Anyone? I don't think you would you? And yet, on the wall of this lift was a sign saying bouncing in the lift will cause the lift to stop between floors. It can take up to an hour for the engineer to attend. Thank you and have a safe journey home. Why was that printed? Doesn't that prove that some people need a sign to tell them not to go lift bouncing? You see a lot of unnecessary signage in toilets, I find, like this. This is a sign that is on the wall of every toilet at my workplace. This is one of our loos. This isn't a public toilet that anyone can use. This is at a television production company. And I don't think a sign like that should be necessary in that environment. Surely nobody has looked at that sign and said, "Oh, you'd rather I didn't wipe my faeces on the walls, right? I got it, you should have said sooner, you just had to ask, I didn't realise." But nobody's ever thought that. Incidentally, I think it's worth saying, no one actually leaves the toilets as they would wish to find them, do they? I mean, I think I strive to leave the toilets as I found them. I don't normally try and improve a toilet. I mean, obviously, in this case, that's hanging the wrong way around. Obviously, I'd sort that out. I'd sort that out, obviously. You know that. But I don't, as a routine thing, think, well, that's functional, but I'm going to make that into my dream toilet. But you know what? Recently, that sign has been bugging me. As the other day, I thought I'll make a bit more of an effort and I'll actually leave that toilet as I wish to find it. There you go. You know what? It's all still there. It is actually all still there. My faith in humanity is restored. Yeah. Got the old bog board. Yeah, nice. Now, that sign is pretty standard fare. The next one, I think, is something special. I saw it when I was in Australia. It's a government-issued poster. explaining how to use male toilets. Now, as you can see, the sign is broken up into two sections. There's a how not to and a how to use the toilet. I have very little issue with the how to section. That's absolutely fine. I've got a bit of a quibble with that bit. That seems unlikely in the middle of the sequence, you know, whether you're that, you're not. No one I know is thinking, well, I've done a bit of wiping, I'll now stand up and deliver that. And now I'll carry on. That's never... You don't post your toilet paper to the toilet afterwards. It's a wipe and drop system, isn't it? But I can see why that exists. It's hard for the artist, isn't it, trying to represent the dropping. You've got to... You know, you have an invisible leg. It's not going to work, is it? So I can see why they've done it. Regardless of the details, the sequence is clearly right, isn't it? And obviously, the same is true for the urinal version. No issues with that whatsoever. My issue is much more with the how not to section. Now... Yes, you can laugh, but you know what? I'm okay with this bit. I can believe there are people for whom this sign is necessary. We have grown up in a Western culture where toilets look like that and we know how to use them. But maybe there are other people in the world who might travel to Australia or move to Australia who have lived in a world up until that point where a toilet is a hole in the ground that you squat over. Isn't it entirely reasonable that someone might think, oh, look, they've raised the hole. Still, I'm sure I can find a way of squatting over it. This, however... Now I'm struggling. I don't care where you're from. You have never walked into a foreign toilet and thought, I've never seen one like this before, but presumably I'm just supposed to shit on the floor while touching it like a good luck charm. If people were doing that before, I do not believe it was because there wasn't a poster telling them not to. There are other posters at work that confuse me. There's a courtyard in our workplace, and as you can see, it has a table tennis table in it. Now, I love a game of ping pong. One thing you need to know about me is I love a game of ping pong. Who doesn't? And this is my desk drawer at work. As you can see, I keep a couple of bats and some balls in there because I like to have decent kit. Of course, I've also got some darts in case I need to take a dump in the middle of the day, but, you know. But basically, it's my table tennis drawer. I like that. That's what we're concerned with at this moment in time. I think of the table tennis table as an incredible workplace luxury. Now, while we were making the last series, Series 3, this sign appeared on the wall by the table. The table tennis table is intended for everyone's use. Please stop removing the net. Now, I understand that bats might go missing and balls might go missing because they're small and very stealable. That's why these things are in my desk drawer. But who the hell is stealing nets? My suspicions point to Nathan in marketing. I'm not sure why, but he has just opened an online shop selling snake hammocks. Anyway, that was how things looked during Series 3. When we started work on Series 4, I got up on day one all excited. I packed my table tennis bats into my bag. I cycled to the office thinking, well, I'll have a little tournament this afternoon, do a bit of ping-pong team bonding on day one. I got to the office, my heart fell, because the table tennis table had vanished. And there was a new sign. The new sign says, unfortunately, the table tennis table has been removed as the net kept being stolen. I was heartbroken. You know, I thought there was an opportunity here, though. I went to the operations manager of the building and said, you know, that table tennis table, have you still got it? I thought I could take it off their hands and buy myself a net. She said, sorry, Dave, you're too late. We gave it away a couple of months ago. So, who have you given it to? She said, Gary from accounts took it. I said, wasn't he bothered by the lack of a net? She said, no. Apparently he'd already got one. My point is, ladies and gentlemen, that in a world in which these signs have been deemed necessary, maybe we have to accept that the drunk man shouting this at a library has a point. Maybe our idea of common sense is different to other people's. Maybe we really do need signs for everything. In which case, please don't lick the adverts during the break. See you in a couple of minutes. London life is goodish, ladies and gentlemen. Now, here's a question. What do you think is the cheapest national daily newspaper in Britain? Thinking nationals, thinking dailies. What do you think is the cheapest newspaper available in the country today? Metro? Star, I think I heard over there. I'll tell you what, I'll talk you through the runners and riders, shall I? Now, The Guardian, that costs you £2, OK? And The Times will cost you £1.40. They both have deals for subscribers, but those are the cover prices. Then we move to the Daily Mail and the Daily Mirror, both of which come in at 65p. Now, the Express, a lot of people, I think, might look at that and think the Express is only 10p. Some people might even suspect that that's what they want you to think at a glance. But I haven't shown you the not-so-large print, and when I do, you'll see that the full text actually says is now 10p cheaper than the Daily Mail and 10 times better. Yeah. Which, of course, means that it's actually 55p. And you know what? I think it's only when you feel you've been conned by a newspaper's sales tactics that you really know you can trust what's inside. If you feel lied to before you've even got to the headline, how are you supposed to believe them when they're telling you what Princess Diana's getting up to these days? Can you? Now, The Sun costs 50p and The Eye costs 40p, and then you get the Daily Star, although, to be honest with you, I can never remember how much that one costs. But I'm pretty sure it's more expensive than the Metro because, of course, that is free, which is why there were people guessing the Metro over there. But even though it is free, it isn't the cheapest of our national daily newspapers. Now, that honour is obviously held by the Daily Telegraph, isn't it? Yeah. And not only is it the cheapest newspaper in Britain, it is also, as you can see, the national newspaper of the year. Out of all of the national newspapers, the Telegraph has been deemed the best. Yeah. Although, oddly, the Daily Mail is the daily newspaper of the year. So, obviously, if you think of all the daily newspapers, which includes the Daily Telegraph, the clues and the title, then the Daily Mail is the best. But if you're thinking of all the national newspapers, obviously includes the Daily Mail, because that's a national, then obviously the Daily Telegraph is best. Although, that's interesting, because the Daily Mirror is the newspaper of the year. Meanwhile, the Express just styles itself as the world's greatest newspaper. Which is what you say when you know you're never winning an award. But I digress. My point is that the Daily Telegraph is the cheapest daily national newspaper in the country, with its cover price of minus 49p. Isn't that incredible? Minus 49p. They're literally paying you to read it. And I realised I might have framed this question badly. Just thinking about it. What I meant to say, what I should have said, is what is the cheapest national daily newspaper when you're at a train station and going to buy a bottle of water anyway? I was in a train station recently, I was thirsty, I was going on a journey, I wanted a bottle of water. I went into a shop, I went into a Smith's, and I went up to the fridge to pick up a bottle of water, and as I did so, I saw this sign. Look at that. A free bottle of water when you buy the Daily Telegraph. But here's the confusing thing. I don't think the money men can have done their sums right, because a bottle of water costs £1.89 and the Daily Telegraph costs £1.40. This must be some kind of mistake. I mean, you want a bottle of water, that is worth £1.89 to you, but for that same £1.89, you could also get a bottle of water, the Daily Telegraph, and 49p, which means that the Telegraph is worth minus 49p. Now, obviously, they're pretending that you've gone into a shop to buy a Daily Telegraph and you've come away with a Daily Telegraph and a free bottle of water, but I don't think that that is what is happening. And I can prove it. My evidence is simply this. They keep the Daily Telegraphs in the fridge. There is, of course, a problem with this deal, isn't there? We all know that. There's a problem with this deal. Yes, you've now got a cheaper bottle of water, but you're also now the owner of a Daily Telegraph you didn't want. Don't get me wrong, sometimes you might be very happy to have the paper. I like their crossword. But when it happened to me the other day, I knew I had no need of a newspaper. I had a book. So I tried to leave the Telegraph in the shop, but the woman behind the till wouldn't let me. I know I could just throw it away, but I find the idea of throwing something away when it's perfectly new just a bit odd, a little offensive. I'll show you what I mean. This is our cutlery drawer at home. This is what I'd like to draw your attention to, ladies and gentlemen. That is hundreds of tiny plastic soy sauce fish. You get them when you have sushi, only we don't use those because we have a nice bottle of soy sauce in the cupboard. And we don't throw them away because they're still good. So we put them in the drawer. And you shouldn't do that because I think they breed. We We've only had sushi at home about 5 times since we moved to this place. Nobody can tell me why we have hundreds of these things, but we do. So anyway, I'm on this train, right? And I have a spare copy of the Telegraph, and I decide that the right thing to do is to leave it prominently on a seat for someone else to read, and nobody else takes it. And you know what? If it had been a metro, it would have been snaffled straight away, wouldn't it? And I don't think that is because everyone prefers the metro to the Telegraph. I think it's because everyone knows that finding it on a train seat is the official distribution channel for the metro. You see this, you see a man on a train with a metro next to him. No part of you thinks you need to ask permission for that man to take that paper. I mean, he can't read it anyway, he's got something in front of his eyes. But you instinctively know, don't you, that a metro being free is always anybody's. But not with a Telegraph. For a Telegraph, it turns out you need to leave it untouched for an hour. That's what happened. 60 minutes into the journey, there's a man who's been sitting opposite me and across from me for the entire journey. He's been observing me. Eventually, he plucks up the courage, leans forward and says, "I couldn't help noticing that you aren't reading that paper. Would you mind?" And I said, "You know what? It's interesting that you asked that, because you are assuming this is £1.40's worth of newspaper and it's actually worth minus 49p, and I'm sure that if you'd known that, you would have asked earlier." And he looked at me like I was the one being weird. So I got my felt tip pens out, I drew a little diagram explaining exactly what I was on about. And you know what? By the time I'd finished, he'd got a little bit agitated, told me he'd missed his stop and he didn't want the paper anyway. I've no idea. What can you do with some people? What can you do? Now, it's probably worth me saying that there are less complicated ways of getting free bottles of water. All you've got to do is hang around in the vicinity of a marathon. I don't know if you saw this story about the London Marathon. Outrage as thieves are filmed snatching bottles of water left for London Marathon runners. Some people said they were stealing the water. Others said that the water was left there by the sponsors who don't come back to get it. The race had been run and that people always just help themselves at the end of the day. I do not know which version is true. I do know that those papers that quite like to stoke the fires of outrage were very clear in the language they used to describe these events, whereas other news sources were being a little more cautious, putting stealing and stolen in inverted commas and saying it was supposedly this and purportedly that. It was in pretty much all of the papers, and absolutely everyone seemed to have an opinion about it. It just went on and on and on. And when a story like that is bubbling away, I always find myself drawn to that darkest of places. Then I'm in the below-the-line comment section, the bottom half of the internet. I go there so that you don't have to. I find the comments that baffle, amuse, offend, or delight me. I take my favourites and I turn them into something that I like to call a found poem, ladies and gentlemen, that I would like to perform for you now. Scum of the earth, nothing else to say. The worst of the worst. End of. People were running a marathon, for crying out loud. I can think of no greater human achievement than that. And I can think of no crime worse than the stealing of their water. The people stealing those bottles of water are not the only thieves in this story. The people who put the water inside the bottles are also thieves. Water belongs to no one. Water is free. It falls from our skies, it trickles down our mountains and flows into our taps. That is nature. Building a factory around one of those taps doesn't make that water yours. That is the real crime here. Imho, the water would not have been taken had it not been for the actions of Mr. Jimmy Savile. People have lost all respect for marathon runners in recent times, and the blame for that lies squarely at his door. The peeps who did this should be forced to run a marathon as a punishment, without water. If one of them dies from dehydration and blisters, then so be it. At least they'll think twice before stealing water next time. The problem here is that that mob is not taking the marathon seriously. And one can hardly blame them for that. Because, unlike other sports, the marathon is just made up. Is it a race? If it is, why does it take so long? Half of the people running it aren't even trying to win. Until the organisers ban all the joggers dressed as vicars, horses, doctors and smurfs, they can hardly expect respect, There is a saying in this world, you reap what you sow. It's by Jesus. And in this instance, the London Marathon is reaping water theft. I thank you. The Bill Rock Ensemble, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you after the break. Welcome back to Modern Life is Goodish, where we have been discussing the burden of responsibility that comes when you suddenly find yourself owning free things you didn't actually want. I find train stations are often responsible for this sensation. I'll give you another example. Sometimes all I want is a sugar hit. I might decide that I just want a chocolate bar for my journey. This happened recently. I nipped into a shop at a train station and picked up one of these chocolate bars. I was perfectly happy to pay 95p for that chocolate bar, so I took it to the till, where the woman said to me, "You can have this for £1 if you like." Let's put that in context, ladies and gentlemen. These are the 2 bars of chocolate. That one weighs 45 grams and costs 95 pence, and that one is 110 grams and costs a whole £1. And as you can see, I think I must be the first person to have ever bought them both. Couldn't explain to her that I wanted to take a photo to show you. Doesn't this make you wonder, what is the point of those chocolate bars? Do they ever sell any of them? Surely the job of those bars is not to be sold. They're the bait in the chocolate trap, designed to sell the other bigger bars. These are effectively the fluffers of the chocolate bar world. I think the only time they can sell those bars is as a part of the meal deal. You can see it's in the meal deal. I'm sure you're all familiar with the concept of the meal deal. Lots of shops do them. They're all variations on a theme. You get a sandwich, a drink, a snack. That's the meal deal. But this is just another situation where you end up being responsible for a free thing you didn't want. Sometimes I know that all I want is a sandwich and a drink. Let's say you're in a Boots and you go for this kind of sandwich, OK? Maybe you go for that, and maybe you go for this drink. They're in the meal deal. Now, if you were getting these and you weren't invoking the meal deal, the sandwich would cost you £3.25 and the drink would cost you £2.50. That's £5.75 for a sandwich and a drink. But if you take those 2 items to the till, they won't take £5.75 from you. They'll say, "You know this is in the meal deal, don't you?" And the meal deal is only going to cost you £3.79, so you'd be a fool not to. And I've tried saying, "I'll tell you what, I won't bother with the snack, I'll just take these for £3.79, and they will not have it. So I end up picking up a bag of crisps as well. And what that means is that that packet of crisps costs minus £1.96. They're basically paying you almost £2 to eat a packet of crisps. And these are pharmacists. They sell insulin, for crying out loud. They sell blood-thinning drugs, and yet here they are, effectively paying an obese nation £2 a head to eat fatty foods. It's almost as if they're protecting the back end by making future customers for themselves. What we've learned so far tonight is that I don't like throwing good things away. I don't always want them, but I still don't want to throw them away. And knowing that, you might think that FreeCycle is right up my street. And on paper, it is. If you're unfamiliar with FreeCycle, this makes it a little clearer. They have over 9 million members. They're a non-profit group that basically aims to keep stuff out of landfill by encouraging people to give stuff away instead of throwing it away. You can post ads on the site offering things or asking for things. Now, I like this in principle. And I have a friend, his name's Nick, who is always trying to persuade me to get involved because he loves it. And yet I don't get involved, I don't use FreeCycle. I will explain why. I'm a bit paranoid that some people have got an attitude about who is and who isn't supposed to be using FreeCycle. If you look on Mumsnet, for example, it's not hard to find conversations like this going on. This person is asking, am I being unreasonable to refuse to hand over my FreeCycle offers to this girl? And the nub of the issue here is, she turns up in a very nice car. I assume she'd be a bit poorer, scouring the giveaways on FreeCycle. For this woman, it's not enough that her things won't be going in landfill. She wants to feel superior to a poor person. Now, obviously, I went looking for this conversation. I don't hang around on Mumsnet much. I'm much more of a net mums kind of guy myself. And you know what? The same conversation is happening there as well. FreeCycle, are the takers genuine? There are people out there who think that unless you're poverty-stricken, you shouldn't be taking stuff on the site. And there are plenty of people out there who think that anyone who has ever appeared on a telly must be a millionaire, even if their show is on Dave. I know. At which point, you're thinking, well, that doesn't stop you giving things away, does it? I thought that was more your issue, and you're right, it is, correct. But there's a reason I don't do that either. It's because of my mate Nick. The guy who's always trying to persuade me to get involved is an awful advert for the site. Every time he's around mine, he's got his laptop out and he's showing me how it works and all that. But at the same time, when I see him using it, I see him being driven mad. Him and his wife, they changed their mattress recently. They don't have a car, so taking an old mattress to the dump is tricky. Besides which, the old one was in good nick. So they decided to FreeCycle it. So I'm sitting there with him one day while these texts land in his phone. And what you need to bear in mind here is that all of these arrived at least 2 hours after he had gone on the website and said, thank you very much, the mattress has now been taken. Hi, I'm contacting you about the mattress. What colour is it? A, it's gone. B, it's a mattress, you're going to cover it in a sheet, who cares? C, cream-coloured with a brownish yellow centre. It's about the mattress. I texted as soon as I saw it. Sorry if it's too late, but I've been at work. Please, can I come and collect it? I can be there between 11 p.m. and maybe 1. Hey, is the mattress still available? No, it's not. And would it fit an IKEA copper dial bed? I have no idea. Mattress sounds too big for me. Got any single ones? We were hanging out recently, he had his laptop out, he was showing me things, and for the first time, he showed me an ad on FreeCycle that got me a little bit hooked. Here it is. It was a want ad. Let's see what it is they wanted. Wanted a cage. Dog or human-sized. That's quite an or, isn't it? Quite an or. Dog or human-sized. What size you said? What's dog size? Dog size, yeah. Or human-sized. Sorry, what was that? It was dog size. Yeah. Or human. Size. There's the full wording of that. This time, I'm saying to Nick, we've got to reply. Budge up, I'm typing. So I sit down at his laptop, I start sending this woman messages, saying, hi there. Does the cage you're looking for actually have to be big enough to fit a full-size human? To which she replied, hey, it can be a little bit smaller if that's the case. Should be able to fit a dog. Or a smallish human. Best, and then her name. So I go back for more. Hi, I'm about 5'5" and not very bulky, and I can just about fit in it, but not comfortably. If I'm honest, after 20 minutes or so, I was getting quite sore. I couldn't tell you yet if it would fit a dog, but my mum's coming round tonight with her Labrador, so I should know later. Any help? To be clear here, I do not have a cage. Nor am I 5'5". I'm 5'9", 5'10", something like that. I'm in character, basically. And I think that by playing a man who's 5'5", but doesn't know if he's bigger than a dog, but who's not only got a cage, but is also prepared to sit in it for 20 minutes to help assess it for a stranger, I'm going to lull her into revealing some details. Instead, what happens is she replies, saying, yeah, sounds good so far. When and where can I pick it up? Nothing at all. And I apologise for what I'm about to say. This sentence is completely unavoidable. Why is she being so cagey? What is going on? I go back for more. I'm out now until later, when my mum comes round. Good news for you, as then I can do the dog test. Or is it definitely for a small human? I'm trying. At least I'm trying. In any case, I'll have to wait until my wife gets home to be sure we can give it away, as it's hers, really. But we've never used it, so I can't see that being a problem. If I'm honest, I'm not sure why she got it. And in reply to all that, I get, OK, great. It's a prop for a bondage party. More for show, but if people want to get in it, they can if they can fit. It's not massively important, though, as long as we've got a couple of cages scattered around. Let me know as soon as you do. At which point, kind of the wind came out of my sails. This was all really good fun when I didn't know what it was for, and then it all felt a bit shitty when I knew she was a perfectly reasonable person. You're a grown-up, you're allowed to have a bondage party if that's your thing. You're allowed to ask for a cage from strangers. She hasn't actually done anything wrong. She's just trying to organise a simple bondage party, and here I am, yanking her chain. I said to Nick... I feel bad now. I've told her I've got a cage and I haven't got one. And Nick says, you feel bad? This is my free cycle account. I'm a member of this community. Technically, I appear to be the one offering her a cage. It's my reputation that's at stake here. Anyway, long story short, I've bought a cage. It seemed like the only reasonable thing to do. We've offered her a cage. She deserves a cage. She hasn't done anything wrong. It cost just over 50 quid to get the cage. There it is, there in the space where there used to be a table tennis table. God, I miss that table tennis table. It turns out it is very easy to build. It's a kind of flat pack thing. You fold it out, you lift it up, and you lift one end up and then the other. And you know what? You can get in it as well, you can. And it turns out that after 20 minutes, I was quite sore. So even though I was making it up, it turns out I wasn't far off. The only difficulty is caused by the fact that Mrs. Gorman and I share an Amazon account. So... she's been getting email notifications about a cage that I've just bought. And she's opening these emails thinking, why are you buying a cage? We've got a baby and a cat. Neither of those things belong in a cage. What are you doing? And I'm thinking, it's all right, it's for a sex party. We're having a sex party? No, we're not having a sex party. It's for Nick. She goes, Nick's having a sex party? No, Nick's not having a sex party. We promised a woman a cage for a sex party. You and Nick are buying a cage to give to a woman to have a sex party? Yeah. Well, who is she? I don't know. I've never met the woman. It's on free cycle. She said, are you going to the sex party? Well, no. Is Nick going to the sex party? No. You're spending 50 quid to donate a cage to a sex party that you're not even going to? Yes. That's got to be better than going to it, isn't it? You're not suggesting you'd rather I got 50 quid's worth of sex party out of this? She said, does Nick's wife know about this? I said, yes, she does. But only because they share a free cycle account. I'm pretty certain they're about 6 miles away right now having a very similar conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a little break right now while we all think about what I've done. I'll see you in a couple of minutes. Modern Life is Goodish, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Now, you're Phil, aren't you? You're Phil. You're from Peterborough, is that right? You're away from home, Phil. Oh, yeah. Would you like some sexy foam? Something to make you moan and groan? Is that?
I certainly.
Yeah. Or is this making you feel as uncomfortable as it's making me feel? Okay. I just wanted to demonstrate something. That's a very odd way. That's a very odd way to address a stranger. Yeah, but I was doing it for a good reason. I was doing it for a very good reason. I wanted to demonstrate how inappropriate that is. Because I think if we can all agree that that is an inappropriate way for strangers to talk to one another, then I'm sure we can also all agree that it is an inappropriate way for an inanimate object to talk to you. Isn't it? I'll explain. In my line of work, I inevitably stay in quite a few hotels. There's a chain of hotels, the Malmaison. Their toiletries look like this. That's the Fig and Olive shampoo and the Fig and Olive body wash. Now, if we turn one of these round and examine what it says on the back, you'll see it says, away from home, you want sexy foam. Something to make them moan and groan. Squeeze the tube, that's quite enough. Oh, my Lord, you look hot in the buff. Now all clean, no longer dirty. Isn't it time for you to get flirty? No, it's not. It's time for me to question why you don't think capital letters are required at the start of sentences. Why would anyone think this is an appropriate way for some shower gel to talk to me? There are people with kids staying in this hotel. I saw them at breakfast. Presumably, their soap is saying the same thing. Is this appropriate for children? Kids don't want to get jiggy with the figgy. They might want to get Peppa Piggy with the figgy, but not this. Let's see what the shampoo has to say for itself. Oh, yeah, let's have a look at the shampoo. Homeboys, homegirls and their crew can't get enough of our shampoo. Just this language. Homeboys, homegirls. This is awkward for a 45-year-old white man to say. This doesn't make me feel like Will Smith is in my bathroom getting jiggy. It feels like my mate Keith's dad, who is a 57-year-old chartered surveyor from Hemel Hempstead, who's wearing sandals with his socks, is doing an impression of Will Smith at a barbecue, and no one knows where to look. Black, blonde, brown or red, there's no better cleanser for any head. It leaves hair fragrant, shiny and full. Name us one person you couldn't pull. I could name loads. Where do you want me to start? Beyonce, Angelina Jolie, 4 out of 5 Spice Girls, the other Spice Girl. Loads of them, for crying out loud. More to the point, I'm a happily married man. I could literally name you just one person on earth that I could pull. If you think this is bad, this is the hand soap. Where your hand's been, we can tell from that grin. You've been committing the 5th deadly sin. Is it just me, or is that soap accusing me of having a wank? And if it is, have they got cameras in this room? How else does it know? What is going on here? When did everything become so sexual? I picked up a bottle of innocent juice the other day and I saw this. Look at that. Oh, stop looking at my bottom. I'm ever so sorry, Innocent. I was trying to see what type of plastic you were made of to see if you are recyclable in my local authority area. I didn't realise we were going to be auditioning for a Carry On film together. I know this is quite tame, but if you checked out of a Malmaison hotel earlier that morning, this sort of thing starts adding up. I guess that from Innocent's point of view, they just see this as another part of their whimsical branding with all their how to hug like a bear and do you want the innocent seal of approval? Look, it's an actual bloody seal. The marketing industry has invented a word for this sort of wacky packaging, and the word is wackaging. I didn't invent that phrase, although I wish I had, because if I had, I could have pretended that I hadn't and hoped it would go away. But it's not going away, it's being written about. Here are 3 articles about wackaging. And while some of these will tell you how annoying it is, they all tell you how successful it is. That's why these crisps tell you the story of when the cheese met the onion, and these crisps tell you the amazing adventures of salt and vinegar. It's why this cereal tells you to go foraging or have a night at the opera. It's why the cups from this coffee shop chain all look like they were written on in felt tip, and it explains why their biscuits look like this. All of this is wackaging. And as far as I'm concerned, whoever invented wackaging is responsible for the hotel toiletries that think we've gone back to Paddy McGuinness's Gaffer a Take Me Out after party. Do you know who is credited with inventing it? Innocent Smoothies, that's who. According to The Independent, wackaging first reared its head when Innocent Smoothies hit the shops. It all started with innocent drinks, says the marketing donut, and the general consensus seems to be that wackaging started with innocence, says the Vice Media-owned food site Munchies. Innocent? Guilty, more like. I was trying to work out why this stuff gets to me, and I think it's this sense that they're having a conversation with us, except it's a very one-sided conversation, isn't it? You don't get the chance to talk back and tell them what you think. Or at least you can, but they soon ask you to leave the supermarket. And then I noticed this. Beneath the innocent blather, I saw this. Fancy a chat? Pop into Fruit Towers. 342 Ladbroke Grove, London W10, which is weird. Because here's a map showing the area around Ladbroke Grove, and that there is the building that they call Fruit Towers. That there is our production office. And that is a 7-minute walk. A 7-minute walk to take up an open invitation to pop in for a chat. It would be rude not to, wouldn't it? So I did. Here I am, outside Fruit Towers. That's the logo proper, if you wondered what was going on there. So I went into reception, where a man said, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Yeah. I've decided to take you up on the offer to pop in for a chat." Didn't bat an eyelid. He just said, "Certainly, I'll see if someone wants to show you around. Take a seat." So I did. Helped myself to a drink. And I'll be honest with you, I was quite excited. Because I'd seen something that had pepped me up. When I was at the desk, I saw something. You can't see it there because the pot plant is obscuring it. But that blackboard contains very exciting information. Fancy a game of ping pong? Ladies and gentlemen, free ping pong. 7 minutes from work, I have free ping pong. Every bottle they produce carries an open invitation to pop in, and when you pop in, there is an open invitation to ping pong. Ladies and gentlemen, there is justice in the world. But here's the thing. I host this monthly night in London, where I introduce guests, tell a few stories, all that kind of thing. It's just a small thing, just like 100 people, that kind of thing. I mentioned this in passing one night, and a couple of days later, I got a message from someone who'd been there, and he sent me this picture. And, you know, I thought, oh, that's cute. He's gone there and done the same Halo picture. And then I chuckled a bit more because he sent me another picture, and he's gone in there and he's had himself a free drink. And then this came in from another member of that same audience, a chap called Chris, who popped in, and he got to use the banana phone in Innocent Smoothers as well. Then I got these pictures from people I'm calling Batgirl and Robin, who had a drink on them, and they played table tennis as well. This girl got to use the banana phone and play table tennis with this fella, as did this woman and her kids, who played games and drank juice, as did these girls, who also got to stand next to the Innocent Kitchen eggs, and who are my heroes because, well, look at how much juice they took. Well done, girls, well done. It seems that within a week of me mentioning it on a stage to 100 people, at least 17 people had popped in. Now, I'm no mathematician, but I make that at about 17%. So just imagine how many people are going to pop in the day after this appears on the telly. 17%. I make that 5. And in a way, I think there's a lesson here, isn't there? In a show in which I've discussed the responsibility that sometimes comes with the free things in life, I guess I could draw an earnest conclusion about the responsibilities I've just learned should accompany free speech. But I don't think that's the most important lesson here. I think the important thing is that if they want us to stop popping in for a game of ping pong, they've got to stop putting that shit on their bottles. Now, I suppose, in a way, we've given everyone at home kind of instructions on how to get yourself a free drink. But we could, I think, go one better for the lovely people who are here tonight. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We have a free drink for every single one of you. I'm sure you're ahead of me. You know where this is going. Ladies and gentlemen, as you leave tonight, please help yourself to a little plastic fishy of soy sauce. Yeah, have yourself a little drink on me. It's a little bit brackish, if I'm honest, but do help yourself. Enjoy that. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. We'll see you soon. Good night.